In the pre-dawn hush of Harlem, New York, where streetlights cast long, lonely shadows across cracked sidewalks, a single cry pierced the silence of a modest apartment. It wasn't a scream, not yet, but a small, trembling voice that carried the weight of terror and love. "Mommy, please wake up." Zoe whispered, her tiny hands shaking the arm of Abigail Johnson, a 28-year-old black single mother and nurse who lay motionless on the threadbare rug of their living room. The clock on the wall ticked past 5 a.m., its red digits glowing like a warning in the dimness. Abigail's face, usually warm, with a smile that could soothe any patient at Mount Sinai Hospital, was pale, her breaths shallow and uneven. Her type 1 diabetes, a relentless shadow she'd battled for years, had struck without mercy, pulling her into a dangerous abyss of hypoglycemia. Zoe, only 3, stood beside her twin brother Zach, their curly hair tangled from sleep, their pajamas rumpled. The twins' brown eyes, wide with fear, darted between their mother and each other. "Mommy always says, 'Good morning.'" Zoe said, her voice breaking as she knelt beside Abigail, patting her cheek with a gentleness that belied her age. Zach, clutching his stuffed dinosaur, poked his mother's shoulder. "Is she sleeping, Zoe?" he asked, his voice small but hopeful. Zoe shook her head, tears brimming. "No, Zach, she's not sleeping. She's not moving." Across the city, in a sleek Manhattan penthouse where floor-to-ceiling windows framed the glittering skyline, Lucas Jones, a 30-year-old white tech billionaire, sat hunched over his laptop. His sharp features, softened only by exhaustion, were illuminated by the cold glow of multiple screens. As the founder of CyberSafe, a cybersecurity empire, built from his relentless drive, Lucas was no stranger to sleepless nights. His pale blue eyes, shadowed by memories he rarely acknowledged, flickered with focus as lines of code danced before him. He hadn't slept in 24 hours, but sleep was a luxury he'd traded for success long ago. The world saw him as untouchable, a man who'd clawed his way from a broken childhood to unimaginable wealth. But beneath the tailored suit and calculated demeanor, a wound lingered, a memory of kneeling beside his own mother at 5 years old, begging her to wake up as a sudden stroke stole her away forever. The apartment in Harlem was quiet now, save for the soft whimpers of the twins. Abigail had woken at 4:30 a.m., her alarm cutting through the fog of exhaustion from 3 double shifts at the hospital. She'd rubbed her eyes, her body heavy with the weight of too many hours on her feet, too many meals skipped to stretch her paycheck. The twins needed her, Zoe with her speech therapy sessions to afford, and Zach with his endless curiosity that demanded her attention. She'd checked her blood sugar monitor, frowning at the low numbers. "I'll eat at work," she'd whispered to herself, a promise she'd broken too many times. In the kitchen, she'd opened the fridge, its sparse contents a stark reminder of payday, still 3 days away. A half-empty carton of milk, enough for the twins' breakfast, stared back at her. She'd started making their peanut butter sandwiches, her hands moving on autopilot, when a wave of dizziness hit like a tidal wave. "Not now," Abigail had gasped, clutching the counter. She knew the signs: clammy skin, a racing heart, the world tilting like a ship in a storm. Her purse, with its stash of glucose tablets, was across the room, too far. She stumbled toward the living room, her legs betraying her, and collapsed, her hand grazing the coffee table as her phone clattered to the floor. Her insulin kit lay just out of reach, mocking her fading strength. "Just need to..." Her words dissolved into darkness as she crumpled to the rug. Zoe woke first to the faint thud, her small body tensing in the shared bed she and Zach occupied. "Zach, I heard something," she whispered, nudging her brother. He rubbed his eyes, still half dreaming of dinosaurs. "Mommy making breakfast. he mumbled. I don't know. Let's check. They slipped out of bed, their bare feet padding across the cold floor, the apartment eerily silent. No clatter of dishes, no hum of the coffee maker, only stillness. Mommy Zach called, his voice echoing unanswered. They found her in the living room, sprawled on the rug, her dark curls fanning out like a halo. Mommy, please wake up. Zoe's voice cracked as she shook her mother's arm. Zach tried tickling her feet, a trick Abigail used to rouse them for daycare, but her stillness was unyielding. Mommy said, if something bad happens, we call for help, Zach said suddenly, his eyes lighting with purpose. Zoe spotted the phone on the floor, its screen glowing faintly. Abigail had taught them about emergencies, showing them the red SOS button she'd programmed into her phone, a precaution for moments like this. Zach pressed it, his small thumb trembling, and the phone automatically dialed a recent contact, a number Abigail had called by mistake the day before, while scheduling Zoe's therapy. Miles away, Lucas's phone buzzed on his desk, the vibration startling him from his code. An unknown number. He almost ignored it, assuming spam, but something, perhaps the late hour, perhaps a flicker of intuition, made him swipe to listen. The voicemail played, and two small, frightened voices filled the silence of his penthouse. Mommy won't wake up. We're scared. Help us. Please come fast. His finger froze over the delete button. The words hit like a punch, dragging him back to that cold morning 25 years ago, when he'd knelt beside his mother, whispering, please don't leave me. His chest tightened, the memory raw and unrelenting. Who are you? Lucas muttered, replaying the message. The voices were so young, so desperate. He tried calling back, no answer. His rational mind screamed to call 911 and move on. But those voices clung to him, refusing to let go. With a few keystrokes, he activated CyberSafe's GPS tracking software, a tool he'd designed for corporate clients, not personal heroics. The phone's location blinked on his screen, a modest apartment building in Harlem, 15 minutes away. His heart raced. A news alert flashed on another screen, a multi-car pileup on the George Washington Bridge, delaying emergency services across the city. Those children couldn't wait. Lucas grabbed his keys, his coat flapping as he sprinted to the elevator. The Tesla's engine hummed to life, and he wove through Manhattan's empty streets, the skyline blurring past. Come on, he whispered, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. In Harlem, Zoe tucked her teddy bear under Abigail's head, a makeshift pillow, while Zach held his mother's hand, whispering, Mommy, someone's coming. I know it. Their small faces, etched with hope and fear, were a mirror of Lucas's own childhood desperation, a mirror he couldn't turn away from. The city was still dark when Lucas pulled up to the apartment building, his heart pounding as he faced the locked entrance. He pressed the buzzer for the third floor, hoping against hope. A groggy voice answered, Who's this at 5 a.m.? Lucas's voice was urgent but calm. I got a call from 2 kids in this building. Their mother's unconscious. Please let me in. A pause. Then the door buzzed open. He took the stairs 2 at a time, calling out, Hello, I'm here to help. A small voice answered from behind a slightly ajar door. We're here. Mommy won't wake up. Lucas pushed open the door, and the sight stopped him cold. Abigail on the floor, her dark skin clammy, her breathing faint. Zoe and Zach sat beside her, their eyes wide with trust and terror. For a moment, Lucas was 5 again, helpless and alone. Then Zach's voice broke through. Can you fix Mommy? Snapping back to the present, Lucas knelt beside Abigail, his hands steady despite the storm in his chest. I'm Lucas, he said softly to the twins. I'm going to help your mom. What are your names? I'm Zoe, the girl whispered. I'm Zach, her brother added. We're twins. Noticing the medical alert bracelet on Abigail's wrist. Abigail Johnson, type 1 diabetes. Lucas's mind clicked into gear. Does your mom keep special medicine? He asked. Zoe nodded, pointing to the bathroom. In the mirror cabinet. Lucas found the glucose kit, his hands swift as he applied the gel to Abigail's cheek, praying it would work. You're so brave, he told the twins, their small hands clutching each other. Help is coming, but I'm here now. As he checked Abigail's pulse, stronger now, Lucas felt a strange pull, a connection to these strangers that defied logic. The twins watched him, their trust, a fragile gift. Sirens wailed in the distance, finally approaching. Whatever happened next, Lucas knew he couldn't walk away. Not yet. If this moment touched your heart, join us for the rest of Abigail, Lucas, Zoe, and Zach's journey. Share where you're reading from, and let's dive deeper into their story together. The streets of New York were a blur of shadow and light, as Lucas Jones, a 30-year-old white tech billionaire, gripped the wheel of his Tesla, speeding through the pre-dawn quiet toward Harlem. His pale blue eyes, sharp with focus, darted between the road and the GPS blinking on his dashboard, pinpointing the apartment where Abigail Johnson, a 28-year-old black single mother, lay unconscious. The voicemail from her twins, Zoe and Zach, echoed in his mind, two trembling voices pleading, "Mommy won't wake up. We're scared." Each word was a tether, pulling him back to a childhood memory he'd buried deep, kneeling beside his own mother, her face still and cold, stolen by a stroke before help could arrive. He wouldn't let history repeat itself. Not tonight. The city was waking slowly, its pulse faint under the weight of early morning. Lucas wove through traffic, his heart pounding as a news alert crackled through the car's speakers. A multi-car pileup on the George Washington Bridge had snarled emergency services citywide. Ambulances were delayed, some by as much as 20 minutes. They don't have that long, Lucas muttered, pressing the accelerator harder. The Tesla hummed, slicing through the empty avenues of Manhattan toward Harlem's narrower streets, where the glow of streetlights battled the encroaching dawn. His mind raced faster than the car, calculating risks, replaying the twins' desperate words. He didn't know. Abigail didn't know her story, but those voices, small, fragile, yet fierce with love, had ignited something in him he couldn't ignore. In the modest Harlem apartment, Zoe and Zach sat huddled beside their mother, their small bodies pressed against the worn rug. Abigail's dark skin glistened with a clammy sheen, her breaths shallow but steady, thanks to the glucose gel Lucas had applied moments ago. Zoe, her brown eyes wide with worry, clutched her teddy bear, whispering, "Mommy, you're gonna be okay." Zach, clutching his dinosaur, squeezed his mother's hand, his voice barely audible. "Phone heroes here now." They'd dubbed Lucas their phone hero in the chaos, a name born of childish trust that pierced his guarded heart. He knelt beside Abigail, his fingers brushing the medical alert bracelet on her wrist, confirming her type 1 diabetes. The gel was working, her pulse strengthening, but time was a thief, and every second mattered. Lucas glanced at the twins, their faces a mirror of hope and fear. "You're doing great, Zoe, Zach," he said softly, his voice a calm anchor in the storm. "Your mom's strong. She's fighting." Zoe nodded, her curls bobbing, but her eyes never left her mother. "She always gets up for us," she whispered. Lucas's chest tightened. He knew that kind of love, the kind that held a family together against all odds. He'd seen it in his own mother, a teacher who'd poured her heart into her students and her son until the day she was taken. He pushed the memory down, focusing on the present. She will this time too, he promised, though he wasn't sure who he was reassuring, the twins or himself. The apartment was a snapshot of Abigail's life, a small, tidy space filled with signs of love and struggle. stack of medical bills peeked from beneath a coffee mug on the table, a silent testament to her sacrifices. A photo of the twins laughing in a park hung crookedly on the wall, their joy a stark contrast to the fear now etched on their faces. Lucas's gaze lingered on it, a pang of recognition hitting him. Abigail was fighting not just for herself, but for them just as his mother had fought for him. He checked his watch, 5:15 a.m. The sirens were still distant, their wail faint against the city's hum. He dialed 911 again. His voice clipped, but urgent. "This is Lucas Jones. I'm at 145th Street in Harlem. A woman, Abigail Johnson, 28. Black, type 1 diabetic unconscious, from hypoglycemia. I've administered glucose gel, but she needs paramedics now." The dispatcher's voice was calm, but strained. "Sir, we're aware of the situation. Due to the accident on the bridge, response times are delayed." "Can you confirm her condition?" Lucas glanced at Abigail, her breathing steadier now, a faint flush returning to her cheeks. "She's stabilizing, but she's not awake yet. Pulse is stronger. I'm staying with her and her kids." The dispatcher hesitated. "Are you trained in first aid, Mr. Jones?" "Enough to know she needs a hospital," he replied, his tone sharp. "Just get someone here." He hung up his eyes, meeting Zoe's. "Help's coming," he said, forcing a smile. She nodded, clutching her bear tighter. Minutes stretched like hours, the apartment heavy with anticipation. Lucas sat back on his heels, watching Abigail's chest rise and fall. The glucose gel was a temporary fix. She needed IV fluids medical oversight. He wasn't a doctor, but he'd seen his father's diabetic episodes as a child, had learned the signs out of necessity. The irony wasn't lost on him, a billionaire who'd built an empire on protecting data, now racing to protect a life. "Why did you come?" Zach's small voice broke the silence his dinosaur pressed against his chest. Lucas blinked, caught off guard. "You called me," he said simply. "I heard you, and I had to help. But you don't know us." Zoe added, her eyes searching his face. Lucas hesitated, the weight of their trust pressing against the walls he'd built around his heart. "Sometimes you don't need to know someone to care," he said, his voice softer than he intended. Their innocence, their vulnerability stirred something in him, a longing to be more than the man who lived for code and contracts. He glanced at Abigail, her face serene despite the danger, and felt a pull he couldn't name. She was a stranger, yet her fight felt personal, as if saving her could somehow redeem the boy who couldn't save his mother. The distant sirens grew louder, a beacon of hope cutting through the tension. Lucas stood, moving to the window, peering into the gray dawn. Red and blue lights flashed at the end of the street, and relief flooded him. "They're here," he told the twins, who scrambled to their feet, their small hands reaching for his. He took them, one in each hand, their warmth grounding him. The paramedics burst through the door, their equipment clattering as they assessed Abigail. Female, late 20s, type 1 diabetic hypoglycemic episode, Lucas reported, stepping back but staying close. "Glucose gel administered about 10 minutes ago. She's responding but not conscious." The lead paramedic, a woman with steady hands, nodded. "Good work. We'll take it from here." They checked Abigail's vitals, preparing an IV. Zoe tugged at Lucas's sleeve. "Will Mommy wake up now?" she asked, her voice trembling. Lucas knelt to her level, his blue eyes meeting her brown ones. "The doctors are going to take care of her. You and Zach were so brave. You saved her." Zach's lip quivered. "You're our phone hero," he said, the nickname sealing Lucas's place in their small, fragile world. As the paramedics lifted Abigail onto a stretcher, Lucas followed the twins, clinging to him. The weight of their trust, their mother's life, and his own past, pressed against him, binding him to this moment. He didn't know what came next, But as the ambulance doors closed, he knew one thing: he was in this, whether he was ready or not. The sterile hum of Mount Sinai Hospital's emergency ward enveloped Abigail Johnson as she stirred her eyelids fluttering against the harsh fluorescent light. At 28, the black single mother and nurse was no stranger to these halls, where she'd spent countless hours tending to others' crises. But now, lying in a hospital bed, her dark skin still clammy from the hypoglycemic episode that had nearly claimed her, she felt the world shift beneath her. Her heart raced, not from illness, but from a mother's primal fear. Zoe Zach. She whispered, her voice hoarse, her hands groping for the twins, who were her entire world. The beeping monitors seemed to mock her disorientation, each pulse a reminder of how close she'd come to leaving them alone. In the waiting area, Lucas Jones, the 30-year-old white tech billionaire who'd raced to her rescue, sat with Zoe and Zach perched on either side of him. His tailored suit was rumpled, his pale blue eyes heavy with exhaustion, but his presence was steady, an anchor for the 3-year-old twins, clutching his hands. Zoe's curls bounced as she leaned against him, her brown eyes searching his face. "Is Mommy awake yet?" "Phone hero," she asked, her voice small but hopeful. Lucas's heart clenched at the nickname they'd given him, a title that felt both heavy and precious. "Soon, Zoe," he said softly, brushing a curl from her forehead. "The doctors are helping her." Zach, clutching his dinosaur, nodded solemnly. "You fixed her first, right?" Lucas managed to smile, though his mind churned with the weight of what he'd stumbled into, a family's crisis, a mirror of his own past. The emergency room doors swung open, and a nurse, Sarah, approached, her expression softening at the sight of the twins. "Abigail's awake," she said, her voice warm but professional. "She's asking for her kids." Lucas stood, lifting Zach into his arms, while Zoe clung to his hand. Sarah's gaze lingered on him, curiosity flickering. "You're the one who brought her in, aren't you? The whole floor's talking about it." Lucas shifted uncomfortably, his fair skin flushing slightly. "Just doing what anyone would," he muttered, though he knew most wouldn't have raced across Manhattan at 5 a.m. for strangers. Sarah led them to Abigail's room, her scrubs swishing as she whispered, "Abigail's one of our best. She works too hard, skips meals to make ends meet. It's a miracle you got to her in time." Inside the room, Abigail's eyes widened at the sight of her twins, their small faces lighting up as they rushed to her bedside. "Mommy," Zoe cried, scrambling onto the bed, her tiny arms wrapping around Abigail's neck. Zach hesitated, then buried his face in her shoulder, his dinosaur pressed between them. Tears pricked Abigail's eyes as she held them close, her dark hands stroking their curls. "I'm okay, babies," she whispered, though her voice trembled with the lie. She wasn't okay, not yet. Her gaze lifted to Lucas, standing awkwardly by the door, his tall frame out of place in the cramped room. "You're the one they called?" she asked, her tone sharp with suspicion. Lucas nodded, his blue eyes meeting her wary brown ones. "Lucas Jones. I got their message and I came." Why Abigail's question cut through the air, her pride a shield against the vulnerability of the moment. She'd fought too long as a black single mother in Harlem, navigating a world that often judged her before knowing her to trust a stranger, especially a white billionaire who looked like he'd stepped out of a Forbes cover. Lucas hesitated, his usual confidence faltering. "Your kids needed help," he said simply. "I couldn't ignore that." Abigail's eyes narrowed. "People like you don't just show up for people like us." Her words stung, but Lucas didn't flinch. He understood her distrust. He'd built walls of his own after a childhood marked by loss and neglect. Before he could respond, the door opened again, and Patricia Jenkins, a social worker with a clipboard and a no-nonsense air stepped in. Her presence shifted the room's energy, a reminder of the stakes beyond Abigail's recovery. "Ms. Johnson, I'm with Child Protective Services." Patricia said, her voice calm but firm. "We need to ensure Zoe and Zach are safe while you recover." Abigail's grip on her twins tightened, her heart pounding. "They're safe with me," she said, her voice fierce despite her weakness. Patricia nodded, jotting notes. "I understand, but given your medical episode, we need a plan. Do you have family or friends who can care for them temporarily?" Abigail's jaw clenched. "Mrs. Rodriguez, our neighbor. She watches them when I work late." Lucas watched the exchange, his stomach twisting. The thought of Zoe and Zach being taken from their mother, even temporarily, hit too close to home. He'd been 5 when his mother died, left with a father who drowned his grief in whiskey, leaving Lucas to fend for himself. "I can help," he blurted, surprising even himself. I can stay with them until you're sure of the arrangements." Abigail's head snapped toward him, her dark eyes blazing. "Why would you do that? You don't know us." Lucas swallowed, searching for words. "I know what it's like to be a kid, scared of losing their mom. I just want to make sure they're okay." The tension was broken by a commotion in the hallway. A young woman with a press badge pushed past a nurse, her phone raised to snap photos. "Mr. Jones, is it true you saved a nurse and her kids?" She called, her voice sharp with ambition. Lucas stepped in front of the twins, shielding them. "This is a private matter," he said, his tone icy. "Leave them alone." The nurse Sarah intervened, ushering the reporter out. "No media in the ER," she snapped, but the damage was done. Abigail's face hardened as she caught the reporter's words. "Saved us," she muttered. "Now I'm your charity case." "It's not like that," Lucas said, his voice low but earnest. "I didn't call them. I don't want attention." Abigail's eyes searched his, looking for a lie, but finding none. Still, her pride held firm. "Thank you for what you did," she said, her tone clipped. "But we don't need a hero." Lucas nodded, stepping back, but Zoe's small hand tugged at his. "Phone hero stays," she said firmly, her brown eyes pleading. Zach nodded, his dinosaur bobbing. "You came when we called." Patricia cleared her throat. "Ms. Johnson, we'll arrange for Mrs. Rodriguez to take the twins tonight. Mr. Jones, thank you for your help, but I'll take it from here." Lucas glanced at Abigail, her face a mask of strength, hiding fear. He wanted to say more, to explain the pull he felt toward her and her children, but words failed him. Instead, he knelt to the twins' level. "I'll check on you guys later." "Okay." Zoe hugged his leg, Zach gave a shy wave, and Lucas left the room, the weight of their trust lingering like a promise he wasn't sure he could keep. Outside, the hospital buzzed with whispers, nurses exchanging glances, a reporter lingering by the entrance. Lucas's phone buzzed with notifications, his company's PR team already fielding questions about the billionaire's rescue. He ignored them, his mind on Abigail's fierce independence and the twins' fragile hope. He'd saved her life, but something told him this was only the beginning of a story neither of them could control. The Harlem apartment smelled of fresh coffee and resilience as Abigail Johnson, a 28-year-old black single mother, moved through her morning routine 3 weeks after her collapse. Her dark skin glowed under the soft kitchen light, a stark contrast to the pallor that had gripped her during her hypoglycemic episode. She checked her blood sugar monitor, 110 steady, and sighed with relief, her nurse's instincts now hyper-vigilant. The twins, Zoe and Zach, still slept in their shared bedroom. Their soft snores, a reminder of the life she fought for daily. Abigail's pride, forged through years of navigating a world that often overlooked women like her, had kept her family afloat. But the memory of Lucas Jones, The 30-year-old white billionaire who'd rushed to their aid lingered like an uninvited guest. His help had saved her, yet her heart wrestled with gratitude and suspicion, a dance of trust she wasn't ready to join. The refrigerator, newly stocked with groceries, a quiet gift from Lucas, hummed softly as Abigail prepared breakfast. She'd returned to her shifts at Mount Sinai Hospital, now limited to 8 hours, to protect her health. But the reduced income tightened her budget like a vice. Zoe's speech therapy bills loomed, and Zach's endless energy demanded new shoes she could barely afford. Lucas's generosity medical bills paid a trust fund for the twins' education eased some burdens, but it also chafed against her independence. "We're not a charity case," she muttered, slicing apples for the twins' lunchboxes. Her phone sat silent on the counter. She'd drafted texts to thank Lucas, but deleted each one, her pride a wall too high to scale. In the quiet of her apartment, Abigail didn't notice Zach's unusual stillness until Zoe padded into the kitchen, rubbing her brown eyes. "Mommy, Zach's not up yet," she said, her voice tinged with worry. Abigail frowned. Zach was always the first to bounce out of bed, his chatter filling the morning. She hurried to their room, finding him curled under his blanket, his dark curls damp with sweat. "Zach, buddy." "Time to get up," she said, pulling back the covers. His face was flushed, his skin burning to the touch. "My head hurts," he mumbled, his voice weak, his eyes half open. Abigail's heart skipped, her nurse's training kicking in. She grabbed the digital thermometer from the bathroom, placing it in his ear. The reading flashed 103.8 degrees F. "That's too high," she said, keeping her tone calm for Zoe, who hovered anxiously nearby. Abigail gave Zach children's fever reducer, changed him into fresh pajamas, and called the daycare to cancel. Then she phoned Mount Sinai, taking a sick day. "Stay strong, buddy," she whispered, brushing his curls back. By noon, despite the medication, Zach's fever climbed to 104.2 degrees, and he grew lethargic, barely responding to her voice. "My neck hurts," he whimpered when she tried to help him sip water. A chill ran through her neck. Pain with a high fever could mean meningitis. Her hands trembled as she dialed the pediatrician's office. "Dr. Carter's booked," the receptionist said. "But take him to the ER if his fever's above 104 or he shows neck stiffness." Abigail's voice was firm, her training overriding her fear. "He's at 104.2 and complaining of neck pain. I'm a nurse. I'm worried about meningitis." "Then get him to the ER now," the receptionist urged. Abigail grabbed her purse and the twins' emergency bag, her mind racing. As she lifted Zach, his small body went rigid, then began to shake violently, a febrile seizure. "Zach," she cried, dropping to her knees gently, turning him onto his side to keep his airway clear. Zoe's voice broke through the chaos. "Mommy, what's wrong with him?" Tears streamed down her face, her brown eyes wide with terror. "He's sick, sweetie," Abigail said, fighting to stay calm. "I'm calling for help." She grabbed her phone, dialing 911. "My son 3 Black is having a febrile seizure," she told the dispatcher, her voice steady, despite her pounding heart. "Fever's 104.2, neck pain before it started. I suspect meningitis." "Ambulance is on the way, ma'am," the dispatcher replied. "Estimated arrival 20 to 25 minutes. There's a pileup on the FDR." Abigail's stomach dropped. 25 minutes was an eternity. Zach's convulsions stopped, but he lay limp, unresponsive, his breathing shallow. "He needs help now," she pleaded, but the dispatcher could only repeat, "That's our best estimate. Is there someone who can drive you?" Abigail froze, her eyes falling on her phone's contact list. Lucas Jones's name glowed like a lifeline she'd sworn not to touch. Her pride screamed no, but her son's life hung in the balance. please," she whispered, pressing call. Lucas answered on the second ring, his voice alert despite the early hour. "Abigail." "It's Zach," she said, her voice breaking. "He's had a seizure. Fever's 104.2, possible meningitis. The ambulance is 25 minutes out. I need you." Without hesitation, Lucas replied, "I'm 10 minutes away. Keep him on his side. I'm coming." Abigail hung up her hands, shaking as she held Zach, stroking his fevered brow. Zoe clung to her, sobbing. "Is Zach going to heaven like Grandma?" she asked, her voice a knife in Abigail's heart. "No, baby," Abigail said, her voice fierce with conviction. "We're getting him to the doctors. He'll be okay." The minutes dragged, each second a battle against panic. When a sharp knock sounded, Abigail yelled, "It's open!" Lucas burst in, his fair skin flushed from the rush, his blue eyes scanning the room. He was still in his work clothes, a reminder of the life he'd left to answer her call. "How is he?" he asked, kneeling beside Zach. "Unresponsive post-seizure fever, 104. 2 neck pain earlier," Abigail said, her nurse's precision masking her fear. "I think it's bacterial meningitis." Lucas didn't hesitate, scooping Zach's small, limp body into his arms with a gentleness that belied his urgency. "My car's outside. Let's go." Abigail grabbed Zoe and the emergency bag, her heart pounding as they rushed to the Tesla. Lucas laid Zach carefully in the back seat, Abigail buckling Zoe in beside her brother, before climbing in to hold him steady. "Mount Sinai," she said, her voice tight. "They know me there. Call ahead, suspected pediatric meningitis." Lucas nodded, making the call as he navigated the streets with precision, his calm belying the speed. "They're ready for us," he said, glancing at Abigail in the rearview mirror. 3 minutes out. Abigail met his eyes, a flicker of gratitude piercing her fear. "Thank you," she whispered, her hand brushing Zach's burning forehead. At the hospital, a pediatric team met them at the emergency entrance, Dr. Patel at the helm. "Abigail." "What happened?" she asked, her eyes on Zach, as nurses transferred him to a gurney. Abigail recited the symptoms, her voice steady, despite the terror clawing at her. "Fever, 104.2, neck pain, febrile seizure." "I'm worried about bacterial meningitis." Dr. Patel nodded, her expression grave. "We'll need a spinal tap to confirm. You know the drill." Abigail's heart sank. She knew the risks, the pain, the stakes. "Can I stay with him?" she asked, her voice breaking. Dr. Patel shook her head gently. "It's better if you don't. We've got him, Abigail." In the waiting area, Lucas held Zoe, who'd fallen asleep, against his chest, her dark curls spilling over his arm. Abigail paced, her hands twisting together, her mind trapped in a loop of worst-case scenarios. Lucas watched her, his blue eyes soft with concern. "He's in the best hands," he said quietly. Abigail stopped, her dark eyes meeting his. "Why are you still here?" "Lucas, after everything I said." He looked at Zoe, then back at her, his voice low but unwavering. "Because you needed me, and I'm not going anywhere until I know you're all okay." For the first time, Abigail felt the weight of his words settle, not as a burden, but as a promise, one she wasn't sure she could reject. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of a charming townhouse in Park Slope, Brooklyn, casting a warm glow over Abigail Johnson as she unpacked a suitcase in a room that wasn't hers. At 28, the black single mother and nurse bore the weight of resilience in her dark eyes, her skin radiant, despite the exhaustion etched into her features. Her Harlem apartment, now uninhabitable due to a black mold outbreak, had forced her and her 3-year-old twins, Zoe and Zach, into this temporary haven, offered by Lucas Jones, the 30-year-old white-tech billionaire, whose unexpected presence in their lives refused to fade. The townhouse with its exposed brick walls and cozy furniture felt like a dream. Too grand for Abigail's reality, a reality shaped by years of scraping by, of proving her worth in a world that often dismissed women like her. Zach, still pale from his recent battle with bacterial meningitis, sat cross-legged on the living room rug, stacking blocks with careful precision. Zoe, her brown curls bouncing, colored a picture nearby, her speech therapy exercises evident in the deliberate way she hummed words to herself. Abigail watched them, her heart a tangle of gratitude and unease. Lucas's generosity paying her medical bills, setting up a trust fund for the twins, had saved them from ruin, but it also stirred a fear of dependence she couldn't shake. "We're only here until the apartment's fixed," she told herself, folding Zach's tiny pajamas. But the townhouse with its child-sized table and backyard swing felt like a home in a way her cramped apartment never had. Lucas arrived that afternoon, his fair skin flushed from a brisk walk, his pale blue eyes softening as Zoe ran to him, shouting, "Phone hero." He knelt to hug her, his tailored jacket creasing. "Hey, kiddo," he said, ruffling her curls. "How's my favorite artist?" Zoe beamed, holding up her drawing, a stick figure family under a rainbow. Abigail's chest tightened at the sight of Lucas with her daughter, his ease with the twins both comforting and disorienting. "Thanks for letting us stay," she said, her voice guarded as she met his gaze. "It's temporary." Lucas nodded, his expression unreadable. "Of course, whatever you need." He set a laptop on the kitchen table, its screen glowing with designs for Safe Call, a wearable emergency device inspired by the twins' accidental call that had saved Abigail's life. "I've been thinking," he began, his voice careful. "Your nursing expertise could make this project really work. Not just as a consultant, but as a partner." Abigail's dark eyes narrowed, her arms crossing. "A partner, Lucas. I'm a nurse, not a tech mogul." "Why me?" He leaned forward, his intensity cutting through her defenses. "Because you've lived it, Abigail. You know what it's like to need help and not get it in time. This device could save kids like Zoe and Zach, people like you." Abigail hesitated, her pride clashing with the spark of possibility his words ignited. She'd spent years building a life for her twins, navigating the systemic challenges of being a black single mother in Harlem, low wages, long hours, the constant fear of falling short. Lucas's world with its wealth and privilege felt foreign, yet his offer wasn't charity. It was respect for her knowledge. "Send me the details," she said, finally, her voice steady. "I'll think about it." Lucas's smile was small but genuine. "Fair enough. I'll email them tonight." That evening, as the twins played in the backyard, Abigail sat on the porch watching Zach push Zoe on the swing. Their laughter echoed a sound that had been scarce during Zach's hospital stay. Lucas joined her, carrying 2 mugs of tea, his fair hands contrasting with the dark ceramic. "This place suits them," he said, nodding toward the twins. Abigail sipped her tea, her gaze distant. "It's too much. This house, your help. It's not my life." Lucas's eyes softened, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through his usual composure. "I know it's not. But maybe it could be a part of it just for now." The words hung between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. Abigail's heart stirred, a dangerous warmth spreading through her. She'd built walls to protect herself and her children, but Lucas's steady presence, his quiet strength, his patience with Zoe's speech exercises, his care during Zach's illness, was chipping away at them. Yet trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. "Why do you keep doing this?" she asked, her voice low. "You're a billionaire, Lucas. You could walk away, no strings attached." He looked down, his fingers tracing the mug's rim. When I was 5, my mom died. Stroke out of nowhere. I found her just like your kids found you. I was too young to help, and my dad, he fell apart after. I've been running from that ever since. But when I saw you and the twins, it was like I got a chance to do something right. His confession, raw and unguarded, caught Abigail off guard. She saw the boy he'd been in his eyes, the pain he carried beneath his polished exterior. "I'm sorry," she said softly, her hand twitching, as if to reach for his, but stopping short. "But my life isn't your redemption story." Lucas nodded, his fair skin catching the porch light. "I know. I just want to help Abigail. No agenda." She studied him, searching for a lie, but found only sincerity, a sincerity that scared her as much as it drew her in. Over the next few days, a fragile routine formed. Lucas visited daily, bringing safe call prototypes for Abigail to review. Her feedback was sharp, practical, streamlining alerts, simplifying the interface for overworked nurses like herself. Their collaboration was effortless, her nursing expertise blending with his technical brilliance. One evening, as they worked at the kitchen table, Zoe climbed onto Lucas's lap, pointing at the prototype's screen. "Can I press the button?" she asked, her speech clearer after weeks of therapy. Lucas grinned, guiding her small hand. "Only in an emergency, kiddo. But you're our best tester." Abigail watched, her heart caught between warmth and caution. This man, so different from her world, was becoming a fixture in theirs. Upstairs, the twins' room was a haven of color, bright bedding, a bookshelf filled with stories Lucas had brought. Abigail tucked them in Zach's small hand, gripping hers. "Is phone hero staying?" he asked, his brown eyes hopeful. "He's just visiting Buddy," she said, kissing his forehead. But as she turned off the light, she wondered how long she could keep Lucas at arm's length. His presence wasn't just practical, it was personal, stirring feelings she'd buried under years of survival. Later, alone in the master bedroom, Abigail found a framed photo on the dresser. A young Lucas, his fair skin glowing, held by a smiling woman who shared his blue eyes. His mother, she realized, the connection to this house he'd shared. It wasn't just a property. It was a piece of his heart, a place to remember the love he'd lost. Abigail traced the frame, her dark fingers lingering. She'd spent so long fighting alone, but Lucas's offer of partnership, of a home, of something more, felt like an invitation to let someone share the weight. For the first time, she didn't push the thought away, letting it settle like a seed in her heart, uncertain but alive. The Park Slope townhouse was a cocoon of warmth against the crisp Brooklyn morning. But Abigail Johnson, a 28-year-old black single mother, felt a storm brewing within her. Her dark eyes scanned the headline on her phone, each word a shard in her chest. Tech billionaire's instant family, Lucas Jones's PR stunt. The New York Post article splashed with photos of her and her twins, Zoe and Zach, alongside Lucas Jones. The 30-year-old white tech mogul painted their lives as a calculated move to polish his image before the safe call launch. Abigail's dark skin flushed with a mix of anger and humiliation as she stood in the kitchen, the scent of coffee unable to soothe her. The photos, her pushing Zach's stroller in the park, Lucas carrying Zoe on his shoulders, were stolen moments, her private struggles laid bare for the world to judge. She'd let Lucas into their lives cautiously, as a partner in the Safe Call project, and a steady presence for her twins. His fair skin and tailored suits had seemed out of place in her Harlem world, but his patience with Zoe's speech exercises and his care during Zach's meningitis scare had softened her defenses. Now, as she scrolled through the article's accusations that their bond was a publicity ploy for CyberSafe's new health device, doubt coiled around her heart. Had she been naive to trust him, Abigail set her phone down. her hands trembling as Zoe's voice broke the silence. "Mommy, why are you sad?" The 3-year-old stood in her pajamas, her brown eyes wide with concern, clutching the SafeCall wristband prototype Lucas had designed for her. "I'm okay, sweetie," Abigail lied, forcing a smile as she knelt to hug her daughter. But her mind churned. The article claimed Lucas had orchestrated their rescue to humanize his image, a narrative that stung all the more because of its plausibility. She'd seen the whispers at Mount Sinai, her colleagues' curious glances when they learned a billionaire was involved in her life. As a black single mother, she'd fought too hard to be seen as more than a stereotype. Someone's charity case, someone's story. Now the world was watching, and she felt exposed. Lucas arrived that afternoon, his fair skin catching the sunlight as he stepped into the townhouse, a folder of SafeCall designs under his arm. "Abigail, we need to talk about the interface," he began, his blue eyes bright with focus. But he stopped, sensing the chill in her gaze. "What's wrong?" She slid her phone across the counter, the article glaring up at him. "This. Have you seen it?" Lucas's face paled as he read, his jaw tightening. "This is garbage," he said, his voice low but fierce. "None of it's true." Abigail crossed her arms, her dark eyes searching his. "They have photos, Lucas. Someone's been following us, me, my kids. How do I know this isn't about your company's stock?" Lucas set the folder down, his hands raking through his hair. "Abigail, I swear I didn't call the press. My legal team's already on it, suing for invasion of privacy. I'd never use you or the twins like that." His voice cracked, a rare vulnerability breaking through his polished exterior. "You think I planned this? That I'd exploit what you've been through?" Abigail's heart wavered, but her pride held firm. "You're launching SafeCall soon. The timing's convenient, isn't it? And you never told me it was part of a bigger health system." Lucas flinched, his fair skin reddening. "I was going to. I wanted to show you the full scope next week, once we had a working prototype. It's not a secret, it's just business." "Business?" Abigail repeated, her voice sharp. "My life isn't your business deal, Lucas." Zoe, playing nearby, looked up, her brown curls bouncing. "Mommy, don't fight, phone hero." She said, her speech clear and deliberate, a testament to the therapy Lucas had indirectly funded. The nickname, once a sweet token of trust, now felt like a weight. Abigail softened for her daughter's sake, but turned back to Lucas. "I need space. Us, the project, it's too much." Lucas nodded, his eyes shadowed with regret. "I'll give you space, but I'm not walking away from SafeCall, or from you." He left quietly, the door clicking shut behind him. The next day, Abigail returned to Mount Sinai, her nurse's scrubs of familiar armor. Colleagues whispered their glances, a mix of sympathy and curiosity. "Is it true about you?" And that billionaire, one asked, her tone more gossip than concern. Abigail brushed it off, focusing on her patients. But the sting lingered. At home, Zoe and Zach sensed her tension. "Where's phone hero?" Zach asked, his brown eyes searching as he clutched his dinosaur. "He's busy, buddy," Abigail said, her voice tight. But the townhouse felt emptier, without Lucas's quiet presence, his laughter with the twins, his steady collaboration on SafeCall. That evening, her phone buzzed with a news alert. CyberSafe stock plummets amid SafeCall prototype flaws. The article detailed technical issues, alerts too complex for nurses' interfaces, impractical for real-world emergencies. Abigail's heart sank. She'd pointed out those flaws in their early meetings, her nursing expertise clashing with the tech team's over-engineered designs. Without her input, the project was faltering, and Lucas's company was paying the price. Guilt gnawed at her, mingling with her anger. Had she judged him too harshly? Or was her instinct to protect her family right? She called Lucas, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I saw the news. Safe calls failing." Lucas sighed, his tone weary. The tech team ignored the practical side. "They need someone like you, Abigail." She hesitated, her pride warring with the pull to help. "I'll review the designs," she said finally. "But this is professional. Nothing more." They met the next day at a quiet Brooklyn cafe, Lucas's fair skin contrasting with the dark wood of the table as he spread out blueprints. Abigail's dark eyes scanned the screens, pinpointing flaws with a nurse's precision. "This alert system would overwhelm a busy ER," she said, circling a feature. "And this interface takes too long for critical moments." Lucas took notes, his respect for her evident in his focused silence. As they worked, their rhythm returned, a seamless blend of her practicality and his innovation. Zoe's voice interrupted, carried from the townhouse via a video call Lucas had set up with Mrs. Rodriguez. "Phone hero, look," she said, holding up her safe call wristband. I pressed it 3 times. Lucas grinned, his blue eyes softening. "Perfect, Zoe. You're our star tester." Abigail watched, her heart softening despite herself. This man who'd rushed to her side twice now wasn't the billionaire caricature she'd feared. But trust was a fragile thing, and she wasn't ready to let go of her walls. That night, as the twins slept, Abigail sat on the townhouse porch, the safe call designs spread before her. A photo of Lucas and his mother tucked in his folder caught her eye. His fair boyish face beside a woman with his same blue eyes, lost too soon. She understood his drive now, his need to save others where he couldn't save her. But could she let him into her life, her heart, without losing herself? The question lingered unanswered as the Brooklyn stars glittered above, holding secrets neither of them was ready to share. The community center in Harlem buzzed with anticipation, its walls adorned with blue and white balloons, and a banner proclaiming Safe Call Launch Day. Abigail Johnson, a 28-year-old black single mother, stood at the podium, her dark skin glowing under the soft lights, her navy dress a symbol of the strength she'd reclaimed. Her brown eyes, once shadowed by fear and pride, now shone with purpose as she faced a crowd of healthcare workers, reporters, and neighbors. Beside her stood Lucas Jones, the 30-year-old white-tech billionaire whose unexpected entry into her life had changed its course. His fair skin caught the light as he adjusted his tie, his pale blue eyes fixed on Abigail with quiet pride. Their journey from a desperate wrong number to this moment had woven their lives together, not just as partners in Safe Call, but as something deeper, something neither had dared name until now. 6 months had passed since Abigail's collapse, since Zach's battle with meningitis, since the tabloid storm that nearly tore them apart. Those trials had forged a bond stronger than Abigail's pride or Lucas's guarded heart could deny. They'd spent late nights refining Safe Call, a wearable emergency device born from the twins' accidental call, its simple button press a lifeline for children, the elderly, and the vulnerable. Abigail's nursing expertise had reshaped its design, ensuring it met real-world needs, while Lucas's technical genius brought it to life. Today, as Zoe and Zach, their brown curls bouncing, sat in the front row with Mrs. Rodriguez, their matching Safe Call wristbands gleamed a testament to the family that had inspired it all. Abigail took a deep breath, her voice steady as she began. 6 months ago, I collapsed in my apartment, a diabetic emergency that could have taken me from my twins, Zoe and Zach. Her dark eyes softened, finding her children in the crowd. They were only 3, but they pressed the emergency button on my phone, sending a message to a stranger who became our savior. She glanced at Lucas, a flicker of warmth passing between them. Today, we're launching Safe Call to ensure no one, child, parent, or grandparent, faces an emergency alone. The crowd leaned in, captivated by her poise, her story of survival resonating in the packed room. Lucas stepped forward, his tablet displaying SafeCall's sleek interface. This device connects to emergency services. With one press, he said, his voice clear and confident. It's simple enough for a child, reliable enough for a hospital. Together, they demonstrated its features. Abigail explaining how nurses could use it in chaotic ERs, Lucas detailing its GPS precision. The twins, prompted by Abigail, scampered to the stage, their brown eyes bright with pride. "Show them what to do in an emergency," Abigail said, her smile radiant. Zach held up his wristband. "Press the button 3 times, he declared, his voice strong after months of recovery. Zoe, her speech clearer from therapy Lucas had supported, added. "And help comes fast." The crowd erupted in applause, charmed by their courage. A reporter raised a hand. "Ms. Jones, your story's been called a modern fairy tale. How do you respond?" Before Abigail could answer, Patricia Jenkins, the social worker who'd overseen their case, stepped forward. "I was there when this began," she said, her voice warm. "This isn't a fairy tale. It's a story of 2 people putting children first, creating something extraordinary." Abigail's heart swelled, her dark hand brushing Lucas's fair one briefly, a silent acknowledgement of their shared path. The celebration moved to Lucas's new home, a cozy brownstone, just 10 minutes from Harlem, chosen to be near Abigail and the twins. Unlike his sterile Manhattan penthouse, this house was alive with warmth. Kid-friendly furniture, a backyard where Zoe and Zach chased fireflies as dusk settled. Abigail watched them from the porch, her dark skin catching the golden light, her heart lighter than it had been in years. Lucas joined her, his fair hands offering a glass of sparkling cider. "We did it," he said, his blue eyes reflecting the stars. SafeCalls already saving lives, 5 emergencies answered in Chicago this week alone. Abigail nodded, her smile soft. "Because of Zoe and Zach. Because of you." Inside, friends and neighbors mingled. Sarah from Mount Sinai, Mrs. Rodriguez, even Patricia, toasting to SafeCall's success. The twins ran through, showing off their wristbands to other children, their laughter a melody of resilience. Abigail caught Lucas's gaze, and for a moment the world narrowed to just them. She'd fought so long to stand alone to shield her twins from a world that could be unkind to a black family like hers. But Lucas, with his quiet strength and unshakable care, had become part of their foundation. "You're not just phone hero anymore," she said softly, her voice teasing but tender. "You're family." Lucas's fair skin flushed, his eyes softening. "I never thought I'd have this," he admitted, his voice low. "After my mom died, I built Walls, my company, my success, to keep from feeling that loss again. But you and the twins—" He paused, his hand brushing hers, a spark igniting where their skin met. "You've given me a reason to stop running." Abigail's breath caught, her pride no longer a barrier, but a bridge. "I was scared to let you in," she said, her dark eyes glistening. "Scared of needing someone. But you've shown me strength isn't just standing alone. It's letting someone stand with you." Zoe and Zach bounded over their brown curls, wild from play. "Mommy, can we sleep here tonight?" Zach asked, his dinosaur tucked under his arm. Lucas knelt, his fair face level with theirs. "Your rooms are ready whenever you want," he said, glancing at Abigail for approval. She nodded, her smile radiant. They didn't live together, not yet, but the brownstone was their shared haven, a place where Zoe and Zach had their own beds, where Abigail's room held a quiet promise of something more. As the twins raced back to play, Lucas stood, his hand lingering near hers. "No rush," he said, his voice a vow. "We'll figure this out together." Later, as guests departed, Abigail and Lucas cleaned the kitchen. Their movements synchronized a dance of trust built over months. Outside, the twins' laughter mingled with the night air, and a tablet on the counter chimed, a safe call alert in Miami resolved with help dispatched. Abigail smiled, her dark hand resting on the table. "We're changing lives," she said, her voice filled with wonder. Lucas nodded, his blue eyes locked on hers. "It started with a wrong number, but it led us here." He stepped closer, his fair hand brushing her cheek, a touch that spoke of promises yet to be made. As they stepped onto the porch, the Harlem skyline glittering in the distance, Abigail leaned against Lucas, her heart full. The twins, safe and loved, slept inside their wristbands, a reminder of the bond that had saved them all. A single call, misdialed in desperation, had become the connection that built a family. If this story of love, resilience, and unexpected bonds moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Let's spread the message of Safe Call and the power of connection, because sometimes a wrong number can lead to exactly the right place.